Support provided by Walters, Papillon, Thomas, Collins, LLC.
And so I'm going to start with that. And let's talk a little bit about the law enforcement database. In Louisiana, in case y'all don't know, if you commit certain crimes, your DNA, you are required to give a sample of your DNA, and it goes into the state database. Let's talk about that first. And it's used for forensic casework. The offenders have to provide it if they commit certain crimes, and it's all anonymous, okay? They're very much confidential, very much anonymous. It is housed by the state police. We're fortunate enough to have the most wonderful crime lab. The state police crime lab in Baton Rouge is just incredible. So we have a wonderful crime lab. The database is run by the state police, and it's very secure and very well run. How do you get into this database? Nobody wants to really be in that database, do they? You get into it, it's really relatively easy. Well, and not everybody goes and commits crime all the time, but it's for all violent felonies, in fact, and sexual felonies, and it's also for violent and sexual misdemeanors. So you go out and you punch out somebody that is bad-mouthing LSU football, and guess what? Your DNA ends up in the database. And there's your language for it if you want to read it. So it's for, and this is since 1999, that's when it began, the database in Louisiana began. Now there is also a national database, and it's called CODIS, and it's run by the FBI. And so all the state databases all over the country, and in different states have different requirements for putting the profiles or putting the DNA in there. But all over the country, they enter these profiles and so that they can compare them. Again, these profiles across the country are at the same sites so that you can compare. It's not like comparing apples and oranges. You're using these junk science sites that are not going to tell you what color eyes, what color hair, what the build is, what the shaped face is. Junk science, right? Which makes us feel a little bit better about it because it's just a biometric fingerprint. It is not something that you can walk down the street and go, well, let me look at this document and pick out someone from it. Removal from the database. How do you get removed from, say you go out and you do punch out that Alabama fan, they had it coming. And so the district attorney says, I'm not going to prosecute you for punching out that Alabama fan. I'm sorry, I think he probably hit you first and I'm not going to do it. And so then you say, well, I had to give up my DNA when I was arrested, and I don't want my DNA to be in that database. It shouldn't be there. So then you actually do have the right, if it doesn't result in a conviction or a plea agreement, you can get it expunged and you can get your DNA removed from the database. Now, I know nobody here needs it. I just thought it might be interesting to know how they got him in there. Okay. Or a conviction has been reversed down the road, and which sometimes happens too. Okay, so there's CODIS. The number of offender profiles in CODIS, and this is across the country, 973,206. That's a lot of people. That's huge, and it grows obviously all the time. The arrestee profiles, again, a smaller amount, and then the forensic profiles are quite large. Forensic profiles would just mean, you go out to a crime scene, you collect a murder weapon, you take DNA from that murder weapon and submit it. So the forensic profiles are what we as assistant district attorneys salivate over because we just love DNA, especially in a time when eyewitness testimony is very questioned. Having DNA is just incredible. It's just, you can watch the jurors' faces when you present the DNA. In the beginning, when I first started presenting DNA, it was like, and in fact with Derrick Todd Lee, we were so afraid that jurors would think, oh, this is just, it's like, this is not real science. This is just fiction. And we worried about it because it wasn't well accepted at the time. Well, at this point, I think most of the jurors that come in are very well educated about DNA. They understand enough to know that this is not, witch doctory. This is real. So that really helps us out. And again, we just love having it. It's just incredible. And again, our lab is incredible as well. But let's don't talk about that type of DNA. So we've already said that we're not going to be able to look at the 13 loci that go into CODIS and tell you anything about this person's appearance. Not happening. Nothing. It's just, just numbers that we need to match. Well, okay, so then you go to the Ancestry sites, right, that have come along. And this is fascinating as well. I mean, it actually has its history. It has its history back, or to us, to Derrick Todd Lee. Because these Ancestry sites, you look at different places on the chromosome, and they are looking for things like hair color, skin color. They're looking for those things, shape of face. They're trying to establish traits. And the way that they do it primarily is looking for, it's very technical, and believe me, they may call me DNA Dana, but it's way above my head. But they take these little snips of DNA and they are able to put together incredible profiles, and they're able to tell people where people originate from. And I actually, in preparation for this, I said, I cannot get up and talk about one of these Ancestry sites if I've never done it. So I did it. And it was interesting. It was fascinating. There are 3 sites that are supposedly, there are tons of sites, but these are 3 that came to my attention. I chose 23andMe for some reason. It just appealed to me. And so I did it. And basically, how many of y'all have done this? Oh, so many. Okay, so you know what it's about, and you know that, especially now, there's been some pushback about privacy concerns. So you have to really, like with 23andMe, they gave me several things to either agree to or not to agree to. Permission to store my sample. I'm 65% English, which I didn't know, and then I've got some French. But what really was surprising about me, and y'all go check it for you, and I shouldn't tell this, I shouldn't say it, but I have more Neanderthal than 94% of everybody else in 23andMe. I don't know what it means. See, there's the shot. I knew it was coming. So, to me, that's fascinating. And then so I know that you people that have done this, you get the traits, and some of the traits are dead on, and some of the traits are like, no. But the one that was dead on for me is, and my parents really loved that part, the very first one on the list that I got is not likely to be able to match pitch. Because I have never, I'm just tone deaf, can't do it. So that one was dead on. But it's like, what can you smell? But more importantly, it's like your skin color, and they can kind of come into a range. But the 23andMe and those sites are not doing as detailed as some others, and we're going to get there. But it is fascinating, and it's a lot of fun, I think. I'm not working for them either. Permission to use your information for medical research. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want to know about it. And law enforcement must get a search warrant to obtain the profile, and that's fair, right? So, but doing it on 23andMe, you can also take your profile out when you want to. You can just get out, and I like that. It's not a public. All these the 3 places, and I'm sure there are 20 others. They don't send your profile out. It's not public. It's private, although they do connect you with other people. So that's different. Then you come to the next. Oh, and these are just some of the other privacy interests. If you want to read them, they guarantee they won't share your information with public databases, which is huge, and all of those things. Because of race, and suddenly that he was not ruled out anymore. And they weren't accepting it as definite, but it did broaden the investigation, and it did result there. And the funny thing about it is that I'll go there in a minute. The funny thing about it is that as I'm researching this, the lab that is helping law enforcement so much, Parabon Labs, and I'm going to get there in just a minute, talked about Derrick Todd Lee. And they said this is the way it started out. And this is the way that this is the first crime that was used to, the first crime that this type of DNA was used, or the locations on the chromosomes were used to make an identification. So yeah, so it was very interesting and is very valuable. Everybody knows about the Golden State Killer. He had a lot of other names too, because he had been at it for quite some time, obviously, because they have to look at the locations where they have the DNA that doesn't give you any of these physical attributes. But I could see down the road, or see if and heaven forbid it never happened again, but if it had Derrick Todd Lee happened now, you call Snapshot, you call Parabon, and you say, yes, we will pay you money if you can come up with this, because they're really good at it. They're helping jurisdictions all across the country, and they're making a huge difference. And it's a fascinating science, and it's amazing that it came from all the way back to being able to predict the race of Derrick Todd Lee, and now they can put together a face and all these physical attributes like that. So that's what I have. Does anybody have any questions?
If you go to microphones, please, and you can see them so that we can turn the mic on, push the button. It should be on. It should be on. Go ahead, Linda.
How many states take the DNA at the arrest stage instead of the conviction stage?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it is a big difference. I was looking at a chart, and there are a lot of them that wait till the conviction stage. But it's, there's no national rule. There's no, each state gets to decide what they're going to do on their own.
Do you have any numbers about people who are exonerated because of DNA?
Oh, the thing about people being exonerated, it happens every single day at our crime lab. Good, because and I don't even know how you would keep the numbers, because what we do is we take that we have a suspect, so we have them swabbed, and we submit the swab, and then they run that against the evidence, and they say, "Oop, not the right guy." But there's no balloons, and it's just like, okay, not the right guy. Let's go.
How about convicted people who are exonerated?
I don't have the numbers on that, but obviously it does happen. It has happened. We hear it in the news, and that's one of the great gifts of DNA. It's like it can't be mistaken. As long as you have quality lab, and they've got so hoops they have to go through to be sure that this is accurate. The safety, it's unbelievable what they have to do. So it doesn't lie, it's not mistaken, it's not biased, it's just straight up fact. And it's so amazing to have. Oh, over here?
Why do we handicap our law enforcement by not letting them use some of those specific sites on the chromosome that you talked about?
I think it was the concern back
Because if you would
when
access the GenMatch, you would have all that information anyway, right?
you would have all that information.
So why don't we just do it up front when we have the symptoms?
I think that at the point in time that they began collecting the samples and building this database, everybody was pretty much afraid of DNA, and there was so much pushback. Times have changed. Maybe it is time to revisit it, but I still think there'd be a lot of pushback. That's my thought. I don't know. But it's such a great help. And so what we're going to end up doing is paying Parabon in those cases when we absolutely need to.
If you swab Mike Glass right now, how soon would you have his DNA profile?
Oh, good. Our lab has done it in 2 hours. Done. But that's when we're standing over there going, please, please, please. But they are amazing and efficient, and they can do it for
During the Derrick Todd Lee, there was a call for voluntary swabbing of white males, and I know a lot of people gave their DNA sample voluntarily. Do all those samples go into the database, and are they still there?
I know that a lot of them did go in the database, but I also know that a lot of people applied to have them removed and were successful in doing so.
Interesting, thank you.
Okay, How can one determine where a body was likely found after years of recovery?
I'm sorry?
How can one determine where a body has been found after years of recovery?
I guess there are environmental things that you can find on it. I know they're doing like plant DNA and they're doing all things like that, animal DNA, plant DNA, all of that to determine. I actually don't know the specific case you're talking about. I heard it was in the news, but I missed it. Sorry.
I think privacy is going to be a huge concern going forward. I was just at a meeting last week and they were discussing data floating around. It's amazing how much data is out there about each and every one of you. It's really frightening. There's 150 million people that go to Walmart every week, and they're collecting data on those people. And all these healthcare organizations that collect data on people, and I think privacy is going to be one of the big fights, including the DNA of the future.
And I agree. I mean, I think that is going to be one of the big fights. But, I guess as long as we have a safety net, like requiring law enforcement to get a court order, as long as you trust that judges aren't just going to sign anything, and in my experience they don't, then at least there's some protection. At least there's, you have to have a need for that. That being said, if you happen to join JetMatch and it's uploaded, it's out there. It's out there. I don't think there's any pulling it back so much because you put it out there on the internet. Oh.
With all the increase in technology, and we have no idea where we'll be, 5, 10, 20 years from now with this kind of technology, are you all concerned about just how we will balance, privacy against, law enforcement with all this, since we don't have laws right now fit for purpose for, right now what we're doing? Are y'all concerned about that? Are y'all trying to kind of make a game plan for?
But the DNA is just such a small part of it. It's just such a small part of it. Because have you ever, communicated with someone on your phone saying, I'm going to go shoe shopping? And then all of a sudden you got shoes coming on your phone. I'm not kidding. That's creepy. That's just creepy. And to me, being able to, are we going to expand the DNA? What concerns me, why I don't upload mine to JetMatch, is because I'm afraid years down the road, they're making all of these, I guess, they're coming up with these attributes, characteristics, and they're saying, she's less likely to do this, she's less likely to do. I get concerned that down the road, they're just going to make all these assumptions about who people are and what they're thinking and what they're doing, and would they be a good employee? Well, she was from a lazy jurisdiction. So I personally, and I didn't have any qualms when I started this. And when I started, and I said, I'm going to do 23andMe, did it. And I didn't have any problem with that. But then when it was JetMatch, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, but I mean, we have so many privacy issues. I think it's just 1 in a million, and at least this one is not somebody making a buck off us. It's somebody actually, as long as they're used for serious crime, then you're using it to save lives rather than to make a buck. It makes a difference to me.
How much of what we see on TV forensic shows is actual fact and fiction? And has those forensic
shows raised the jury's expectations of how you present a case?
Oh, yeah. We deal with it every time. In fact, I have a little clip I like to play, and it's of CSI, and there's a photograph, a video actually, of this person standing there, and they're able to look into the person's eye and see a reflection of what really happened in the crime scene. So I make sure that's we deal with that every single time. But what we're trying to do is say, we're not Star Trek. We'll go NASA. It's the difference between NASA and Star Trek.
Support provided by Walters, Papillon, Thomas, Cullins, LLC,